Okay, today we're going to look at notes for The Open Window by Saki. Saki, whose real name was Hector Hugh Monroe, was born in Akyab, Burma on December 18, 1870. His father was a colonel in the British military. Following the death of his mother, he was sent back to Devon, England, where he lived with his grandparents. Saki is known as a satirist. His best-known short story is The Open Window. He is also famous for the character Reginald in many political cartoons. Plot summary: Frampton Nuttall has presented himself at the Stapleton house to pay a visit. He is in the country undergoing a rest cure for his nerves and is calling on Mrs. Stapleton. Well, she worries that her brother will suffer if he keeps himself in total seclusion, as he is likely to do. Mr. Frampton Nuttall suffers from an undisclosed nervous ailment and comes to the country in hope that its atmosphere will be conducive to a cure. He brings a letter of introduction to Mrs. Stapleton in order to make her acquaintance for his stay in her village. While he waits for Mrs. Stapleton to appear, her niece keeps him company and tells him. Characters: Mrs. Stapleton is first to believed that she is a widow, keeping vigil for her departed husband and brother. Theme: sanity and insanity. The Open Window shows just how fine the line can be. Mr. Nuttall's susceptibility to deceit is no different from that of the reader of the story, yet Mr. Nuttall is insane, and the reader, presumably, is not. In order to maintain this distinction, Saki forces his reader to consider the nature of insanity and its causes. Style: The Open Window is the story of a deception perpetrated on an unsuspecting and constitutionally nervous man by a young lady whose motivations for lying remain unclear. Historical context: The story is set in Edwardian England, the period of time early in the 20th century when King Edward VII ruled England. The Open Window is set at the country estate of a typical upper-class family of the time. Wealthy Edwardian families often had country homes such as this one. Mr. Nuttall, using a letter of introduction so as to meet people in his new community, has a common practice among the upper class of the time. Criticism summary of The Open Window. Hugh Hector Monroe, who wrote under the pseudonym Saki, is well known not only as a master of the short story form, but also for the irony in which his stories are imbued. The Open Window, Saki's most frequently anthologized story, is an excellent example of Saki's use of irony. The events of the story itself is ironic in their own right. However, Saki increases the ironic amplitude of the story by making the reader a victim of the very same hoax that Vera perpetrates on Mr. Nuttall. Here is your works cited.